podcast, the dog storytelling, fantasizing about, commemorating, celebrating, all that good stuff show. I am your host, Ilya Alexeyev, and I am joined with a very long-time friend of mine, Glenn. Hey, Glenn.
Hi.
And so I guess before we start going into like all your stuff, I've known you long enough where you actually have known all the dogs that I have had.
That's true.
So, I mean, my first dog, Chewy, we were little kids, so I don't know how much you remember about her.
I remember Chewy clacking around in the kitchen with long toenails. I remember that sound, and I remember Chewy being super friendly.
Yeah, I did a whole episode about her, and I talked to my dad, and my dad called her like the perfect dog, basically. Mm-hmm. Your brother wanted to marry her.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No.
Because he said he is an alien. But yeah.
I believe it.
But then we had Sparky, and so Sparky was when did we get Sparky? 99 or something like that. And then Sparky, we put him to sleep senior year of high school, and then we got Mike, and then a few years ago getting Dewey, and we are joined by a live audience of Dewey sleeping. As I was setting everything up, he was chewing on my shoe. I was explaining to Glenn that he doesn't like destroy it. He just kind of holds it and maybe slobbers on it a little bit.
Yeah, he like holds it like a doll. It's kind of adorable.
Yeah, it's like it's his toy, you know, like he does like regular like plush toys, but he likes shoes more. As the disclaimer I throw out every episode, I am no expert in dogs of any kind, other than that I've grown up with them. But my guess would be something that it's like he can smell you on it, so maybe that's why he likes it. I don't know. That's my theory with the shoes. He has taken certain shirts. Like, I have white t-shirts that I work out in, and he takes those. Only those, especially after I've worked out in them. He loves socks. So, anyway, that's Dewey. Listen to the Dewey episode if you want more Dewey. Anyway, we're not here to talk about me, necessarily. I'll throw in a little bit of myself in there. But we are here to talk about your dog. But before we get into the meat of your dog, you actually, you have a dog now, but you had a dog growing up, and her name was Jackie.
That's right.
When did you guys get her?
We got Jackie in the early 2000s. I think it was actually 2001.
Okay.
We adopted her from the Humane Society, and she was a teeny little brindle thing, but she was always super spirited and very alpha dominant. That was always her ultimate personality trait, was that Jackie was very alpha dominant. I remember when I was a kid, she would nip at my heels to try to herd me in a certain direction.
Really? That like just in the like kitchen or whatever, or where?
Like when we were playing around in the backyard, She
okay.
would nip at my heels and try to make me move in a certain direction, and
Wow.
I had to correct that behavior several times before she understood that she was actually not on top of me in the food chain in the pecking order of the family.
Yeah, that's something that we've discussed on this show about some dogs try to assert dominance. I think it was the first day we got Mikey. He jumped in my bed and growled at me when I was going to bed, and I was like, "This is a new dog. I don't know what to do." Like, you know,
This
like
is my bed.
like if it was like a dog, you know, my dog who I've like had for years, like I'd grab him by the collar. But since he growled at me, I didn't want to get bit or anything. I think Dima grabbed him and threw him off or something. But yeah, that's, I guess, I don't know, dogs need some time to figure their role in the house. Was she a puppy when you got her?
Yes, she was a very small puppy, and she had never ridden in a car before we got her, because she was born in the Humane Society, and so...
Oh, she was born at the Humane Society?
Yes.
Did someone drop off like a pregnant, like her mom or whatever, like when she was pregnant.
That's right. Her mother was dropped off pregnant, I believe, and she was born at the Humane Society. And as we were taking her home, she threw up in the car because she'd never been in a car before.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Oh, do you remember so I guess before we get in too deep into all those details, was there like something like was there like a huge desire to get a dog? Was there like what was behind the decision other than that like we just want a dog? Because you guys, if I remember correctly, that was after you guys remodeled your house, right?
Yes.
So you guys had like a much bigger house, and so was that like something that you guys wanted? Like we have space for a dog.
We had a much bigger house, and we had space for a dog, and it was also something to do with my mom wanted to have a larger female presence at the house because it was me and my two brothers and my dad, so
Yeah.
she was severely outnumbered, so she wanted a female dog puppy, so there was
Okay.
a little bit more of female presence.
Okay,
And
that's
then
definitely reasonable.
Jackie came along and ended up being super alpha dominant, so I'm sure that balanced things out a little.
And what kind of dog was she?
She was a boxer German Shepherd mix.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, so back to what you were saying when she threw up in the car. Was that one of those things where you're like, great, like it's already off to a rough start, or was it like a laughing kind of thing, or like, do you remember like meeting her at the Humane Society, and like, do you want to go into all that?
I definitely remember meeting her, and she was always very sweet, and we played well together, and she only started becoming dominant once we took her home, because once we took her home, she felt like she needed to assert herself on us.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, you know, it's a new environment, so to like figure out the rules, and certainly my dogs have done that.
And when she was in the car, we actually had a towel ready because my mom expected that to happen.
Oh, okay.
So I actually had a towel on my lap when she threw up on me. So that
Oh,
was
she threw up
fine.
on you.
Yup.
So, were all of you in the car, like, to get her? Like, was it like a family decision on the dog?
Yes, we were all very excited.
Because, I mean, imagine, like, your mom had an idea of what she wanted. And I think most people want puppies. Like, it's not the best choice for everyone, but I think most people, if they want a dog, they probably want a puppy. So, it probably wasn't a hard decision, right?
Definitely.
Do you remember how long, like, did you just go one day, or, like, I know now they post, like, the dogs on all the different Humane Society websites, like, dogs you can adopt. Do you remember if they had that back then, or did you guys just show up one day and see who was there?
All I remember is that we visited a couple dogs, and they kept getting adopted out from under us.
Oh, so you'd visit the dog that day, but not take it home that day?
We would visit a couple dogs, and then we would go home and make a decision.
Oh, okay.
And we ended up getting Jackie just barely before somebody else got her, and she almost got adopted out from under us, but we ended up getting her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, do you remember what she was like when you first, like, brought her in the house?
She was very insecure, and she would cry at night, and she would try to take control, because I think that was her personality, that she needed to be in control. And eventually she figured out that we were all there for her, and that everything would be fine. And we would play with her frequently, and have tons of fun. And she was a great dog.
How long do you think it took her to, like, adjust to that?
A couple weeks.
Oh, okay. Do you remember how old exactly she was? when you got her?
I do not. She was several weeks old.
Oh, several weeks old. Okay, so she like grew, like she actually grew, right? Explosively, yeah. Like when we got Mike, he was 9 months old, so I don't think he really grew that much. Okay, okay. So we don't. I mean, unless you really want to, like, we don't have to go too much more into Jackie. I just wanted to give everyone some context that you do have. I don't like saying dog experience, but it wasn't your first rodeo, and even that I don't like saying because I don't know. It's like a family member, not like I don't know. I'm just gonna stop myself before I keep saying worse things. So do you want to talk more about Jackie?
I might compare her to Munchkin a little bit, only because it's kind of funny how Jackie was so alpha and had these alpha tendencies, whereas Munchkin is so beta and had such beta tendencies.
All right, so yeah, let's get right into Munchkin. So, do you want to explain how you got him? Or actually, so, how old was Jackie when? I don't even remember what happened. Did she have some health issues, or?
She ended up with cancer, and we had to put her down around, I think it was 2012, because she basically couldn't get out of bed. She just couldn't move, and she was always incredibly active and in your face and in control, and we felt like she wouldn't really want to stick around and just linger and just kind of
so like
consume oxygen, so we let her go.
Yeah, if she's not being herself, yeah, you don't really see. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't really see a reason to just like keeping her around just for your sake, right? Like,
Yeah,
there is kind of like a responsibility, right? Where if the dog's like suffering, you don't necessarily want to just keep it around just so you can hold off, as long as possible. It's like grim and heartbreaking as that may be.
we definitely felt like we were holding on to her for our benefit more than hers at the end. Unfortunately, I wasn't there because it was extremely sad.
Yeah. But was it like, did everyone kind of like decide like, or come to agreement like, yeah, like we got to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it sucks, and it's hard to think about, and I'll probably get emotional if I keep thinking about it. So let's just move right along to Munchkin. So, first off, what year did you guys get Munchkin? And then we'll start talking about more of the details.
I think we got Munchkin in like 2014 or something like this.
Okay, yeah, from what I recall, that sounds about right. And so, like, do you want to like give because he has a interesting backstory behind him. So do you want to just go ahead and spill it all out?
Yeah, so Munchkin's backstory is that he is a part staff terrier, part boxer, essentially all bully breed dog, and he is all white fur with patches of brindle, and he has kind of a pink bald-ish spot on his nose, and he looks very mixed, and his ears are different colors, and he has a big round bully breed head, and he's generally very sweet and submissive. And his backstory is that he was born on the street, and he would visit a pet shop because they kept feeding him. And
that sounds about right.
And, yeah, because he's very food driven. Munchkin is very food driven, but mostly later on he became very toy driven. But he's definitely very food driven, and they ended up capturing him, and a couple who who are the friends of my brother, adopted him, but he grew and grew, and they had to move, and they couldn't move him into their new apartment, so they adopted him out to my parents because their backyard has lots of space, and Munchkin is extremely high energy, extremely active dog, and he's very beta in the sense that he doesn't really want to have anything to do with other dogs, which is kind of funny sometimes because he loves walking and going out on walks and smelling everything, like most dogs, I imagine. But whenever he encounters other dogs, he doesn't want to smell other dogs, and he always shies away from them, and he seems kind of perplexed or frightened by them. And I think that might have something to do with his backstory growing up on the street, in the sense that he had to sort of avoid other dogs, but that's purely my guess.
Do you know how long he was, like, on the streets?
At least the first few months of his life.
Okay. So, the previous owners, they had him for a few years before you guys took him?
Yeah, I think when my parents got him, Munchkin was 2 or 3 years old.
Oh, really? Was that long ago?
Yeah.
Because you said he's 9?
Yeah, now he's like 9.
Okay, he's the same, and he's like the same age as Mike.
Yeah, now he's 8 or 9.
Okay. Do you want to go into his name? Because there's a little funny backstory behind that.
Yeah. So, Munchkin was originally named Munchies, as in having the munchies.
Yeah. And so,
but my parents didn't like that, so they renamed him Munchkin.
Yeah, because it was kind of like, I don't know, like there is some science behind like what dogs hear, and I think like that's why a lot of like you hear like Lucky, Sparky, Dewey, Mikey, like the 2 syllables is good, and they hear like the E sound pretty well. But Munchies, Munchkin, the first syllable is still that mun, so I get that.
He responds to all of these things, though.
Yeah, so that's the thing is, some dogs do learn to respond to multiple things.
Yeah, he responds to Munchkin, Munchies, any of those things.
Yeah, what's funny is about Mikey is like someone like will be in the kitchen, and the kitchen is like Valhalla or something, right? Like,
yeah, it's this magical place of wonderful snacks.
And it's like I need to be there as it's not a perfect analogy, but it's like I need to be there as much as possible.
It's like this temple.
And yeah, it's this temple. That's a good way to put it. So if someone will call Dewey for whatever reason into the kitchen, and if Mikey's not in there, Mikey will go in there too, because he assumes that he's getting a treat. So it's like Mikey knows Dewey's name. I don't.
I know each other's name.
Well, I don't know about Dewey. Dewey's hearing isn't that great anymore, so I don't know how aware he is of that. So, I guess, other than trying to help someone out, take a dog in that they can no longer take care of, was there, like, a desire to get another dog? Were your parents talking about getting a dog? Like,
my dad's always loved pit bulls and bully breeds. So
did your dad grow up having dogs?
I believe he did.
Okay.
But I don't know very much about that, unfortunately. But along the lines of the temple of the kitchen, there's definitely a cupboard in our kitchen where
it's like a little pantry cupboard.
Yep.
Would how I would describe it.
Where all of the snacks for Munchkin are located, and sometimes he'll lean on me and I'll scratch his head and he'll walk away a few paces and I'll get up and walk after him thinking that he has to go outside or something, but he just leads me over to the cupboard and then he looks at the cupboard and he looks at me. Then he looks at the cupboard because he just wants a snack.
Yeah. So yeah, so your parent or your dad kind of like the dogs. It had been a while since Jackie was gone. So do you think there's like a strong desire, like we should get another dog?
Yeah, it was basically time for another dog. I think that's why they adopted Munchkin.
Because definitely talked about this before on the show, but just kind of like the idea that and I'm sure multiple animals different types of animals can do this, but a dog can fill a need that perhaps you didn't know you had before, if you've never had one. And so if you have a dog and then you don't have the dog anymore, that need may not be fulfilled, and depending on helps, I'm sure a wide array of factors and needs, eventually you may feel I want a dog. A dog is not an easy, it's a commitment. It's not like buying a new TV or something, or a nice TV or a nice computer or something like that. You have to take care of it all the time. But it can improve your life. It affects your life a lot. So I totally imagine that. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I believe it was only a day or two after we put Sparky down that we got Mikey. So I don't quite know. We've basically always had our dogs overlap. So I personally don't know what that's like, but I can totally picture that.
I was away at college.
Yeah,
when
they
put Jackie down, and I'm actually not sure how long it was between Jackie being gone and Munchkin being adopted, but I know that after Jackie there was some amount of time, and Jackie went out somewhere around 2012, and Munchkin visited the house I think a couple times before they adopted him.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm not sure exactly when that was. It was somewhere between 2012 and 2014 because I was in college.
Yeah, you're in college. So, I mean, how was it kind of for you? Because, you're not there, so it's
I don't think Munchkin really liked me at first.
Really?
Yeah, because
who's this guy?
Because actually I was kind of like a stranger and an invader because he had been living in the house, and I came back, and I remember there was a time where I sat down next to him and I was just kind of petting him, and he just kind of grumbled at me. He didn't quite growl at me, but it was definitely hey, you're getting too close to me kind of grumble.
Yeah, because from your perspective, you're like, hey, cool, there's a dog here. I'm going to pet it, but
And he says, hey, this is my house now.
He's like, my house, not your house. I think, the funniest thing about one of the funniest things about Mikey is when he's, in, guard dog mode, he hears the doorbell or knock or whatever, he's barking, he's going crazy. He smells you once and you come in, and then you're his best friend. Once you cross the doorway, you're his best friend.
Munchkin does the exact same thing. I feel like he does that thing where at the beginning of Terminator 2, the dogs have to check and see if people are Terminators or not. It's like that where as soon as the person comes in and he smells you and he says, okay, you're not a cybernetic organism, I guess I can let you inside, or something like this. I don't know.
The funniest thing is when Mike would run to the door, Dewey will come too. It's Dewey, you're not even doing anything. You're not he doesn't bark. He's just I'm part of the search party, or
I'm included.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
helping.
It's like Ralph Wiggum, right?
Yeah, I'm included.
So did your parents like tell you like we're thinking about getting a dog, or like, how did you find out? Did you just show up one day and there's a dog there, or did they get him and then they called you?
Craig told me that his friends couldn't take their dog into their new apartment, so it seemed like mom and dad were probably going to adopt him. I said, okay, that's cool. I like dogs.
Like fine by me. Like
Yeah.
you're like I'm sure you are like a lot more flexible. Like if it was only your decision what type of dog, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, well if it works.
I'm just glad my parents are letting me come home after college too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You let him in, let me back. Come on. So had you met Munch before he came in your house or like lived with your parents?
I had never seen him at the couple's house. I
Okay.
only saw him when he was at my parents' house.
Visiting, or like when they actually had him?
When they actually had him.
So did you kind of like make the trek up to like visit him, or did you just wait till like the next time you were gonna be home?
No, I just saw him the next time I was home.
And what was that like? Was that kind of weird? You're like, there's a new dog here. That's weird.
No, I don't think it was weird because it felt weird when there wasn't a dog in the house.
Oh, okay.
And when there is a dog in the house, it just feels busier and warmer.
That's a nice way to put it. Like, for us, like, getting a new dog, it was like, or at least for me, I should say, that I was like, okay, what's this dog gonna do? Like, is he gonna jump on the counter? Will he jump on the tables? Is he gonna, like, jump on the couch? Or is he gonna, rip up this or that? Like, I'm just trying, like, for me, I was trying to figure out all those things, like, how attentive is he? Like, before Mikey had his collar on, we couldn't hear him in the kitchen at all. Like his paws were quiet enough where we couldn't hear him. So he probably stole a lot of food when we first got him. Because that's the other thing is like we have to retrain ourselves to live with a dog. Because like Sparky was like old and he didn't jump on the counter, I don't think. So like you kind of get used to that. Like whenever I go to someone else's house who doesn't have like any dog, and they leave like food, like a plate of food, just on like a little coffee table or something, I'm in my head. I'm like, my house, that's gone. Like, sometimes I'll be making food, and I'll put it on the kitchen table, and I'll be like by the stove, like getting something else, and he'll go after like my food, like right there. It's like you're 13. Anyway, that's enough Dewey talk. So how like well trained was he, and like how did he like respond to like commands and stuff, or did you guys have to retrain him?
Munchkin was pretty strictly trained to not go after food that was not his, so we were fortunate enough that we could leave food on the coffee table and stuff like that, and Munchkin won't touch it. He'll look at it, and he will hover like 2 feet away from it, and kind of look at it, and then look at you, and then look at it, and then look at you.
He's like, I can have it, right?
And
it's waiting for me.
He will heavily imply that he wants it, but he will not go for it, to the point where it gets pretty pathetic. And he'll just guilt trip you as hard as he possibly can for eating food that he's not allowed to eat. But the other way that he was trained is that he will always bark at anyone who comes up to the front door. And no matter how many times we tell him to stop doing that, I think it's just deeply ingrained in his brain that he's supposed to bark at anyone who approaches the front door, or especially anyone who uses the doorbell, because I've actually opened the front door and showed him the doorbell.
Oh, like
then,
the front door's wide open.
Yeah.
You ring the doorbell and he'll still bark.
And he'll still bark. I think there's just something in his brain that just really, really hates the doorbell, or perhaps he was trained to bark whenever someone touches the doorbell or something
Okay.
like that. But I don't know what's going on with that. So if I ever have friends over or anything, I tell them just come around the side of the house, because Munchkin doesn't know how to interpret that. Like, when people come around the side of the house, there's no space in his training for what to do in that situation.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not trained on this. What am I supposed to do? Like,
he doesn't know. So he just smells them, and usually he recognizes them, I think.
I'm just like imagining some like teenager working at McDonald's, and there's like some like armed robber who comes in his first day, and he's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I wasn't trained for this.
I wasn't trained to do this. So I guess, did you like him right away?
I liked him right away. I don't think he liked me right away.
Did that bug you?
No, because I understood that he didn't know me, and I just worked on it by like walking him and stuff, and eventually he trusted me, and nowadays he's like my best friend. Like, he will sleep on my bed pretty much every night, and he will sneak up on me, and like, I don't even notice he's there until I hear him fart or something, or maybe I'll just smell it first. I'll turn around and he's just laying there staring at me like, "What's up, dude?"
Does he sleep by your feet or by your head?
He sleeps by my feet, fortunately, because
okay.
My sister-in-law told me that when she sleeps over and he's very affectionate towards her, he's actually very affectionate towards all women for whatever reason, but he's very affectionate towards her, and if she's so foolish as to leave her room open, he'll sneak in and sleep on the bed with her, and she said she's woken up multiple times with his butt in her face, and he'll just fart in her face.
That's interesting, because so in my experience, whenever there's a dog, let's see, I'm trying to remember. Most of the time, like, Mikey will sleep on my bed sometimes. Well, if I'm not there, he'll sleep on my bed, like, during the day. But if I'm there, there's been a few times where he has, and he's always been by my feet. There's been a couple times where he was on the bed, and I was kind of like, move over. And then I got on the bed, but I didn't bother enough to like kick him off. Like, he wasn't taking enough room. But I do recall seeing pictures of like people, just random pictures people have posted of them with dogs, and it was a woman who I saw where the dog slept by her head too. So I wonder if there's some connection between that, or maybe it just varies per dog. No idea.
I don't know. Munchkin has pretty much never slept by my head.
Does he act strongly towards your mom?
Oh yeah, he protects her. In fact, there was one time where she was out gardening, and she screamed because she saw a rat, and the rat tried to run away, but Munchkin heard her scream, and he ran over, and he pounced on the rat, and he broke its neck.
Whoa.
Yeah, Munchkin, he likes to kill rats, and he likes to chase squirrels and cats, and I think he views them all equally as vermin, for whatever
I don't think I've heard of a dog getting rats. I mean, I have 2 cats, so any rat problem we have is taken care of by those 2. That's crazy, though.
Munchkin's really, like, ball-oriented. Like, if you throw a ball or something, he'll chase it. He's really quick and agile, and he loves catching things. I don't know if that's related to him attacking rats, or if my dad really hates crows. So maybe Munchkin has figured out that you're supposed to hate crows or something like that, and you're supposed to hate rats, because my dad hates rats, too.
I mean, I think a lot of people hate those creatures.
And yeah, maybe that's just rubbed off on Munchkin. And there was one time where I was hanging out in the backyard, and there's this squirrel that looked kind of elderly. It was mostly brown, but it had like tinges of gray on it, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Maybe it was like old and slow and elderly, but it was kind of hopping around, by the yard waste bin, and I saw Munchkin stalking it, like sneaking up on it. And I've almost never seen him do that before. And it's certainly not something that Jackie would have done, because she would always, like, charge out, guns blazing kind of thing. But Munchkin snuck up on this squirrel, and it noticed him at the last second, right before he pounced, and it actually avoided him, and then it ran back towards me, and it jumped up onto this shelf, and Munchkin bumped into the shelf, or he kind of boxed it. He, like, jumped up and he boxed the shelf, and he knocked the squirrel out of the shelf, and then the squirrel charged towards me, and it went under my chair and under the table, and then ran out toward the lawn, and Munchkin kept chasing it, and I feel like if that squirrel had gone up a fence or something instead of going out of the lawn, out towards the lawn, it would have fared better. But because it charged out onto the lawn instead of going up a fence or getting some sort of height on Munchkin, he caught it. But when he caught it, all he did was he flipped it onto its back, and he snarled in its face. And I've never heard a squirrel scream like that. I've never heard a squirrel make that kind of noise. It just screamed and screamed. He didn't bite it, though. And then he pranced back to me and wiggled his little tail, and I scratched his head.
That is so odd.
And the squirrel, I saw the squirrel lying on its back with its mouth wide open, and it was panting and gasping, and it looked horrified, and then it hopped up and onto its legs, and then just hopped over to a fence and climbed away and went somewhere, and I'm sure it's never come back.
That's insane. So let me just take a sec to run through this. So okay, because how I think of it is Mikey he chased squirrels a little bit when we first got him, but he eventually got bored of those and moved on to cats. Only interested in cats. But that's crazy that did he kill the rat?
He killed the rat that startled my mom, but he did not kill the squirrel. He did not kill the squirrel that I was completely indifferent towards.
Yeah, of course. Because for you, it's just like, whatever, it's a random squirrel.
Because I was sitting there on, like, a lazy Sunday morning, sipping my coffee in the backyard, just on, like, a lazy Sunday morning. And I just saw him, like, stalking this squirrel, and when the squirrel, like, charged towards me and just went under me and ran out to the lawn, I had, like, no reaction to it at all. So I wonder if he didn't kill the squirrel because I didn't care about it, or if he ever had any intention of killing the squirrel, if he was just chasing it for fun.
When he killed the rat, did you just hear your mom scream and you found out later, or were you outside too?
I wasn't there for that entire incident.
Oh, okay.
I only heard about it later.
Okay, because I was gonna. Well, one thing I thought you said when you're like, the squirrel climbed up, I thought you were gonna say it climbed in my shirt or something like that. I was just thinking of some like crazy like movie TV show thing that I've been conditioned to compare things to.
I'm just very grateful that when the squirrel ran under my chair, Munchkin did not crash into my chair.
Oh yeah, the other thing I was
glad he did not do
the other thing I was gonna say is when I've seen the cats go after squirrels and I've like stopped them, or birds. I'm like, I'm gonna have to clean it up because you're not gonna eat it. So I've stopped them. So what was the time frame of this whole squirrel thing? Because you described it in great detail, but like 30 seconds or something? Like, it was super quick?
Yeah, 30 seconds or less. It was super quick.
Well, so you didn't even have time to think, like, I'm going to try to stop him doing it, this squirrel. You're just kind of, like, watching it, this whole thing, like, unfold?
I didn't really have time to think about it at all.
Yeah.
It was probably, like, I probably watched him stalk the squirrel for about, like, 3 seconds, and then he chased it for, like, 10 seconds.
Okay.
And then before I knew it, he was back, and I was scratching his head, and he was looking at me like, did I do a good job? Did I do good?
Did the squirrel scream sound weird? Or it's like, "Wah!" Like I don't know, that's more like a bird or something. But was it weird?
I don't think it was weird. It didn't sound like I did not expect it to sound. It's not like a goat scream or something. Because like, if you ever heard a goat scream and it like sounds kind of like a person, it was not like that. It was like a shrill like rodent scream, which I guess makes sense. But
Okay, that is.
I've just never heard a squirrel make any kind of noise. But yeah, it sounded like a screaming rodent.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, I don't know, 99 out of 100 times the squirrel gets away?
Oh yeah,
Maybe even more, right?
probably 999 out of 1,000.
Yeah, out of
times.
1,000. That's insane. Does he still go after squirrels?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He chases everything because I think he enjoys it. I think he does it. I think he might have not even known what to do with the squirrel once he finally caught it.
So I don't remember if this is something someone told me or like a video I saw, but basically the point of it was a dog chasing a cat. And the cat stopped running, and the dog caught up, and the dog just sat there, or stood there, whatever, because it didn't know what to do. Because the whole time, it had always been chasing them, but it never got to that next step of what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So
It reminds me also in elementary school, like there were girls in our class who would complain, the boys chase us at recess time, or whatever, and our teacher's response was, well, if they chase you, then just don't run. Because then, if you don't run, then they can't chase you, and then it's boring for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such like a fascinating like thing behind like domesticated animals, right? I mean, because a squirrel is like, it's a wild animal, but I mean, like, they take a lot of human food, and if you like left your back door open like all day, a squirrel would probably go in there without, assuming no one's like commotioning around.
Maybe.
So that's just like a fascinating relationship between those. Man, that's crazy.
Sometimes we find dead rats, though. But their bodies are never mutilated or eaten in any way.
It's just like
because
smashed or whatever.
Munchkin has no interest in eating a rat. When we find rat carcasses, it's just like their spines are broken, and like when you pick it up, it's all wobbly because you can feel like the bones are broken.
Oh,
and
that's fun.
It's like I heard my mom describe it as like he pounced on it and he bit it, and then he let go. He assassinated this rat. He just instantly killed it, and then just left it there.
Yeah, like some movie or whatever where you like break someone's neck, but then you pick it up afterwards.
Went like Steven Seagal on this rat, broke its neck.
So, how long ago was the squirrel thing? Just out of curiosity.
That was in the summer.
This summer?
Yeah.
Okay, and so just for context, we're recording. I was gonna say filming. Recording this the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. We can do a little thing about that at the end. So that was only a few months ago. So it's not like he's like, oh, he was a 2-year-old dog and he's like at the peak of his performance.
No, he Munchkin has cancer.
Oh yeah, that's a good transition into some of his health issues.
Yeah, he has mast cell tumors, but the vet says that he's very resilient, and it seems like it because even though he's had it for about a year, you can't really tell. He's as energetic as ever. Munchkin thinks he's still a puppy, in my opinion.
That I like that in dogs. Like Dewey certainly acts like that, and sometimes I think it's because of poor training. But I don't know. Maybe it's just a personality quirk that some dogs have. Do you want to talk about you? I was hanging out with you a few weeks ago, and you told me that he had a stroke, right?
Jackie had a stroke.
What was it with? Because remember, his head is like sideways.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was ages ago. Yeah, Munchkin had a stroke ages ago.
Oh,
That was probably like 2 years ago.
Oh,
or something
okay.
like that. He. It was really strange because it was the only time it happened, and we had gotten the carpets cleaned that day, and he fell asleep on a carpet that had carpet cleaning fluid on it, and then after that, he got up and he was totally fine, and he like took a nap on this carpet for hours, I remember, just because I was like stepping over him. And that night he went and he climbed up onto the couch and he took another nap. And then when he woke up in the evening, he was walking around like with his head tilted sideways, like bumping into stuff, totally uncoordinated. And the vet said that it seemed like he had a stroke, and for a while I thought it might have had something to do with him like sleeping on the carpet with the carpet cleaning fluid, like maybe he inhaled some chemicals or something, but they convinced me that's not what happened, that he just had a stroke because he's getting older. And it was kind of sad for a while because his head is now kind of permanently tilted to the side, and it really threw off his game when it came to chasing stuff, especially with playing catch, because we used to call him the Jedi Master when it came to catching tennis balls or anything, because you could throw it like as hard as you wanted, as high in the air as you wanted.
He'd always catch it.
And he would always catch it. He was like the Jedi Master. He was like psychic. He knew exactly where it was going to be. But after that incident, he would always drop things and he would miss his catches, and he was so uncoordinated. It was kind of sad, but in the years since then, he's actually adapted to it. He's adapted to the change, and he's almost as good as he used to be. He used to have like a 100% catch rate. Now he has like a 90% catch rate. And the vet said that it's probably something circulatory, and it's related to his blood pressure. And I noticed that when he barks at the front door and he gets really aggravated by something, his head tilt will start to come back. And his head will just get progressively more tilted, and I'm guessing that's because like his blood pressure is going up.
Oh, interesting.
And
so he had a stroke, but it wasn't like some thing where it's like you hear some noise and you rushed in, right? It was just something that he like had, and like as far as you guys know,
as far as I could tell, it happened while he was asleep.
Interesting.
I was there because I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and he walked in, like, same as normal, from where he was sleeping on the carpet. And he just walked in because Munchkin's like a party animal. He always wants to be where the party is, but not that he wants to party, he just wants to be where the party is.
He wants to be a part of the crew.
He wants to be a part of the crew. He's just a very social dog. So he just walks in because everybody's watching TV, and he climbs up onto the couch and he takes a nap. And we watch TV for like an hour and a half or whatever, and then he wakes up and he's all tilted, and he's been tilted ever since. So as far as I'm aware, it happened while he was asleep on the couch.
That's crazy. I mean, the only like close comparison that I would have to that is Mikey's been having a lot of seizures recently, and he'll be having those like while he's like sleeping. Like he'll just be on. They keep happening on my bed.
And his head bobs, right?
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, he's had some really bad ones too, where he's like slobbered, and like he had one, like a week or so ago, and like he was in my room, but I wasn't, and we like heard, some like shaking. Hope that sound effect works on the audio. We hear all the shaking, and then like he gets up and he's like discombobulated, and then he's got like covered in slobber. Like it almost looks like if you had like a brush of like slobber and you just like flicked it on him. Like it's kind of just like a random like pattern on his like on his snout.
Oh, that's so sad.
And then he actually like pissed all over himself too.
Ugh.
Like one time. So I imagine, I don't know, it just released would be my guess. I'm definitely no expert in seizures or anything like that, but it's heartbreaking. It's weird too because like I feel like we don't have like a good context of like their health with like a stroke. Like I don't know, like when you think of like a human, like what they get a stroke when they're like 70s, 80s or something like that would be my guess. But if he's like 9 times 7 is 64, right? No, I'm putting myself on the spot. 63. Jeez. You need to go back to school, apparently.
Who uses math?
Got a calculator. So I guess it's a reasonable age. But you don't think about it like that, right? Like, the dogs, maybe they get their muzzle gets whiter, but they don't, like, look old like a grandparent looks old. So it's weird. I guess that's one reason maybe why it's like harder for us to like realize, oh yeah, like they are getting older, because there's not all that the same visual clues or cues from that.
They just turn a little grayer and a little fatter.
Yeah. So I guess I'll give some quick of my encounters with Munch. I think one of the last times I was over at your house, we were watching a movie, and he jumped on the couch and was like licking me. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, and I'm gonna be honest. Like, I've only have met him probably 6 times or so, something like that. Like, not like a crazy amount of times. And then probably...
But you were sitting next to Melody, though, so he knew you must be cool.
Oh, okay. Because one of the other times I was over, we were watching Black Mirror on Halloween like a few years ago, and he was nonstop licking Dima's face, like for the entire time, like to the point where Dima was like, "I didn't see what happened on the episode because this dog was on me." And I don't know what it is about Dima, and I think we might have mentioned it in the episode I recorded with him. But dogs, like a lot of dogs, have like licked his face a lot and like him for whatever reason. I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah,
it's just like they like him a lot. But
yeah, I remember that.
Dima
was like he was like leaning back in the corner, like with his head up, like this, just laughing, just as much.
Yeah,
would not stop. Licking his face.
And like Mikey and Dewey can be affectionate, but they're not big lickers. And so having like a dog do that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a while since you get squeamish and ticklish, and you're laughing.
Munchkin can be outrageously affectionate. There was one time where my dad came home after being away for a week, and Munchkin was so excited to see my dad that he charged down this hallway, and he actually bashed his shoulder on a door frame, and he actually took a chunk out of the door frame.
Whoa. Did he, like, because you have wooden floors, right? Like, did he slide, or was he just, his coordination wasn't the best, or what?
No, he was just really excited. And he just, like, Munchkin's like a tank. He's, like, super muscular, and he just went charging down this hallway, and there's this little outcropping of wall, and he just blasted a chunk out of it with his shoulder and just kept running.
Is that the one by your garage? You talking about that hallway? Okay.
It's that hallway. He was charging down that hallway, and he blasted a chunk out of the wall.
Did it seem to affect him?
Nope.
That's great.
Nope. He got in a fight with the house, and he won.
Yeah, and he won. He
was just so stoked.
but he still likes even though his coordination isn't quite there, does he still like the ball the same amount, and he likes to play like.
Oh yeah, he adapted to it. It's just
Okay.
like if dogs are amazing at one thing, it's gratitude. He's just so grateful that he's still here to play with the ball. So he learned to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And he's almost as skilled as he once was.
Is that from like a science textbook or something? It seems like improvise, adapt.
Oh no, it's a Bear Grylls meme.
Oh, gotcha.
From the interweb.com, the interwebs.
Okay, Bear Grylls. Okay. Are there any? So I think that's all I have from my experiences, other than like echoing things you said. Is there any other like funny or sad or noteworthy stories of Munch that you can think of? Like one that like epitomizes. You've told some great stories that I had no idea about. Are there any other stories you can think of?
Munchkin is highly bamboozled by children. I think that Munchkin likes an orderly atmosphere where everyone is included and having fun. Like if I ever have friends over in the backyard, he'll like bring his ball systematically around to everyone because he wants everyone to experience the joy of throwing the ball, kind of thing. He wants everyone to be included.
I love when dogs have a system, and it's like sometimes, like Mikey can hold 2 tennis balls.
He can't decide which one's to hold.
But sometimes we have more tennis balls out, and so he has some sort of ranking system. Like I don't know if the one that's farther back is better, or I don't know how it works. I've thought about this quite a bit, but he definitely does have some sort of ranking system. So and Dewey has it too, where like if there's a bunch of people like sitting on the couch, he'll like systematically go up to each person, get pet, back up, go to the next person. Like it's great. Like I don't know how dogs come up with it, like these sort of systems. Like, but it's hilarious.
Munchkin doesn't like it when children are super crazy though, because he just doesn't understand.
Oh yeah, that's what you're saying. So, Mikey feeds off children. Like he gets so excited, yeah, and because like little kids love dogs, so Mikey has an ego, so he just eats it up.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about Munch? He's like a dog I can imagine, like, you could put a backwards hat and put him on a surfboard.
Yeah.
Like, not actually surf, but just, like, take a picture of him doing that.
He's mostly super chill, dude. He's my best friend.
Yeah, the other thing I was like, just a small thing, but you guys, like, don't care if he's on the couch or anything, like...
We have blankets that we lay on the couch. And he has come to understand that he is allowed to be on the blanket, and the blanket is his spot.
Okay.
And if there is not a blanket on the couch, then he will not get on the couch. But if there is a blanket on the couch, then he understands that he is allowed to jump on that blanket, and that is his spot. He will curl up in that spot.
It's so fascinating. Like, dogs can, like, learn, like, small things like that, you know? Like,
oh yeah.
I wouldn't expect it, you know. If I never had dogs, like I wouldn't expect. Like I was just telling you, like in my bedroom, Mikey just started like found a spot in the corner, and so like I just like curled up a extra blanket that I had and chucked it in the corner, and he started sleeping on it, and then Dewey started sleeping on it, and then today Dewey's moved it like 5 times, like it's completely in a different spot, and he's on it right now. Sleeping, so but it's like this is the vessel in which I sleep, wherever it is.
Munchkin always requires my permission to jump on my bed. He loves to cuddle, but he requires my permission. And I've been woken up before by him coming in, and he'll look at me, and if I do not grant permission, or if I don't tell him to go away, he'll sort of like do like a throat clearing growl, go like,
That's funny.
And I'll either say, Munchkin, go away, or I'll tell him to get up, and then he'll jump on the bed. But he wants an answer. He requires permission.
I don't think I've had any dogs with the throat clearing bark, but I have just being smelled in my face and being woken up. It's not a bad way to be woken up. It's just basically some like air, like just in your face. Cool. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for telling a bunch of great stories. Like, you know, you're my friend, and so like I wouldn't be surprised if there are things that you told me, but there's tons of stories that I had no idea about. So I'm glad you were able to do an episode.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Is there any like final send-off message you have, like, you know, like be cool, go to school, or anything you want to say, like fold your laundry or something like that? Drink your milk, whatever.
Well, I know that if my parents hadn't adopted Munchkin, he probably would have been put down, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I was told. So, I think in the future, if I'm ever looking for a dog, I would definitely not rule out looking into a dog that has a couple years mileage, hopefully has some prior training, has some backstory, because dogs like that have it rough, and, you know, like, no pun intended, but
yeah,
they can be put down if they're not adopted out. Puppies have an easier time getting adopted out, so I would look into, like, an older dog if I was thinking to adopt a dog, because I'm really glad that my folks got Munchkin, because he's a great dog, great character.
Yeah, well, that's a very, very nice sentiment. Yeah, everyone wants the puppy, but there are plenty of other great dogs out there, and sometimes, like, just to be frank, sometimes it's easier to not have a puppy, because a puppy requires a lot of work and energy, and sometimes it can be very hard to want to come home after a long day and then deal with this dog that has unlimited energy. I've been there, and luckily I was in high school and in beginning college when I had to deal with that, not like an old man or anything like that, because I would imagine that'd suck.
Munchkin's my personal trainer nowadays. Like, he forces me to take him on, like, many mile walks. And,
that's good though. Yeah,
that's good for both of us.
Exactly. No, the walk is good for the play, because they need that stimulus. I mentioned earlier that we're recording this the weekend of Thanksgiving, and I know there are various podcasts who they say what they're thankful for, and part of the idea was that this podcast as a whole was kind of expressing our thanks for dogs and how they've impacted our lives, and so I just wanted to add that note. Cool. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Good Boy Podcast. If you want to follow me on the internet, I am on Twitter and Instagram. It's just my name, @Ilya Alexeyev. If you are listening to this, you've made it far enough to understand my name, hopefully, and you can figure out the spelling. If you want to follow the show, there's a Twitter and a Facebook page that's @TheGoodBoyPod. I don't really tweet out too often. It's primarily just when the new episode launches, so it's not an annoying blast into your Twitter feed or Facebook. Otherwise, the show posts on basically every single platform that I know of. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, what else? It's on YouTube, I think, still. All sorts of random apps. So if you can listen to a podcast there, it's probably there. I would like it if you rated the show and shared it with your friends to get more people listening. That always helps the show grow. I'm just doing this for fun, so it's not like I'm like asking for money or anything, but I just want more people to listen. Let's see if there's anything else. Nope, I don't think there's anything else. Thank you, Glenn, for joining me. And remember, keep petting those dogs.